If your girlfriend or boyfriend treated you the way a credit card company treats you, you'd dump them. If you didn't come over on their schedule, you'd be charged interest. Or if you didn't answer their phone calls, they'd call you at work and harass you. So why are we still with credit card companies? As a college student, you face so many conflicts of interest, like being tempted to use credit cards, applying for student loans, and trying to build your credit score. In fact, 83% of college students have a credit card, and the average graduating student has $23,000 in debt. This chapter is one of my favorites because it's going to challenge and even prove wrong most of what you know about money. Pay attention. This might be one of the most useful classes you will ever take.
Tonight's lesson is particularly hard for a speaker, a teacher like me. Because see, my job is to bring you ideas that you accept as your own. That's called learning. If you accept them as your own, it's going to cause you to go do things differently than you used to do things. The problem I've got this evening is I've got an uphill battle because this lesson goes directly perpendicular against everything in our culture. Just about every message out there talks about how smart and wise you are to go into debt, and I am going to make the rarefied and crazy statement that I think debt is dumb. I think it's stupid. Well, a few of you are kind of getting the idea that maybe that'll work, you know? But can you imagine if I go into a public setting and I'm speaking, you know, in a motivational seminar with a big lineup of big name seminar guys and that kind of thing, and then I get up there and I'm the guy saying in this culture, car payments are stupid, credit cards are dumb, and a home equity loan's crazy? I mean, can you imagine that I'm the guy that says you can be a student without a student loan? I mean, that is exactly against everything you hear out there. And so what I've got to do is more than just merely tickle your brain a little bit to get you to look at things differently. I've got to completely crush a cultural paradigm to even be heard on this subject. I'm going to attempt to do that in our time together. With some of you it will work, and some of you are going to go, he's just crazy. The boy's just lost it. And that's fine, I'm cool with that because, well, you know, we've already figured out normal is broke. And I don't want to be normal. My goal is total weirdness. You know, the Wall Street Journal says 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to be normal. Figure out what most people are doing out there. Don't do it, and you're in pretty good shape. That's an idea. But when it comes to this debt subject, you know, if you tell a lie, you spread a myth loud enough, long enough, and often enough, eventually it becomes accepted as the truth. You know, if I get my compass out, I could establish really quickly that right through there is north, according to a compass. Now, there's always some moron that will argue with that, isn't there? But that's the truth. But if I spent $482 million a year per year for a decade or two trying to convince people that was north, some would begin to believe it. Because they saw it on television, so it must be true. Everything on TV is true, isn't it? I mean, reality TV's real, isn't it? Come on, I mean, really. Isn't it amazing how we just buy into this stuff? And that's what we're talking about here. And see, debt has been marketed to us with such intensity, with such sophistication, and the marketing, and with a large amount of marketing dollars for so long, that to even imagine living without debt requires a complete paradigm shift, a completely new way of looking at things. Now, the way you get a paradigm shift, the way you get a new way of looking at things is you put stuff into your brain that wasn't in there before, and that's what we're going to do tonight. You know, when you read a book and you go, wow, I never thought of that way before, and it gives you a new way of looking at marriage, or a new way of looking at raising kids, or a new way of, you know, controlling your physique and losing weight, or building muscle, or learning to run, or ride bikes, or whatever it is you're going to do. When you get a new way of doing things from learning, and that's what we're doing here tonight, so congratulations for being with us. You know, our great-great-grandparents thought debt was a sin. I mean, think about it. Here's some interesting actual facts. The 1910 Sears catalog. Now, this is Sears. Credit card city Sears. The 1910 Sears catalog said, buying on credit is folly. Now that's another generation, isn't it? J.C. Penney, Mr. J.C. Penney, was nicknamed, because he was so tight, James Cash Penney, because he didn't believe in debt. And while he was alive, J.C. Penney, the stores, offered no credit, ever. Henry Ford of Ford Motor Company fame hated debt. Ford Motor never offered credit on cars until 10 years after General Motors did because of Henry's personal disdain for debt. These are actual facts. But that's a whole 2-3 generations ago almost now, isn't it? And we look back there, our great-great-grandparents basically thought debt was a sin. Our grandparents, they thought debt was really dumb, and they borrowed on a couple of things. And, you know, so around 1950, we see the birth of what we now call the credit card by a guy named Frank McNamara. Frank printed up some plastic cards in the city of New York City and started handing them out as a way to go. Several restaurants began to accept these cards, and it was the very first credit card out there. It was called Diners Club, and it is still around out there, actually. Around 1958, out on the West Coast, there was a little company called Bank AmeriCard sprung up, which was the precursor and later became known as Visa. In 1958, American Express was born. So this is some interesting history on this. See, our grandparents thought debt was dumb. Our parents come along, they start to borrow on everything. By 1970, only 15% of Americans owned plastic. In 1976, Bank AmeriCard changed its name and became Visa, just 30 some odd years ago. Visa, in the scope of the history of the world, is a fairly new product. And here's an interesting one too. Some of you didn't know this. Back in 1986, Sears got in a little dispute with Visa, didn't like the fee structure. So they said, we'll show you, we'll just start our own brand. And Discover Card was born by Sears. And it became the most profitable division of Sears. And when Sears got in financial trouble, the way they survived that financial upheaval was they sold off the Discover Card accounts and brand and made a ton of money on it. So our great-grandparents thought debt was a sin. Our grandparents thought it was really stupid. Our parents borrowed on a few things. We come along, we borrow on everything. I mean, you go down to a pet store, you get 90 days, same as cash on Rover. Come here, baby, Repo Man's here. And over 6 billion credit card offers went out last year. 6 billion, that's 6,000 million. And 18 million people accepted it. One of my listeners mailed me this in from our radio show from Bank One. It's the Bank One Platinum MasterCard. It's interesting. It says solid line of credit up to $100,000. It's addressed to Mr. Toby Cocker on Rocky Mountain Parkway. And my listener wrote across the front, Dave, this is my dog's name. Toby the Cocker Spaniel. And Toby's been dead 4 years. 6 billion credit card offers out there, including Mr. Toby Cocker. What we're saying here is that banks are very, very good at selling their product. And what you and I have got to realize as consumers is debt is not a privilege, debt is a product.
Oh my. Deeper than it is now. I'm not even sure what it is right now.
I suppose somewhere in the trillions of dollars.
$4.7 trillion.
5 trillion?
$10 billion.
40,000?
$48,000 billion.
How many of you own a business or in sales of any kind? Raise your hand. How would you feel if Monday morning when you got to the front door, there were people lined up down the street on one knee saying, please sell me your stuff? And you say, well, I'll have to check your credit. Wouldn't that be an interesting way to be? See, if you and I had done as good a job selling our stuff as the banks have selling Americans on believing debt is necessary to exist and debt is necessary to prosper, now we go in to buy their product on bended knee. We go in and say, please sell me your debt. And then when they approve us to buy their product, it's like getting accepted to a country club that nobody can get in. You know, it's like, I've got a plutonium card. I was accepted. Isn't that's tremendous marketing. It's called a negative sale. When you can get someone wanting something, take it away from them so they chase you to get it. That is powerful because everybody wants to get into a crowded restaurant, don't they? Everybody wants to buy something that's no longer on the shelves, don't they? That scarcity kind of feeling, and that's the way debt has been marketed, and very effectively, to where now we think we're someone if we get approved. Isn't that an interesting twist and how they've been able to pull that off culture-wide? I think it's excellent. I think they're very, very smart, and I think they're very good at what they're doing. But you know, if we go into any other store and the salesman comes up and says, can I help you please? You say, oh no, I'm just looking. I mean, what if you went into a bank and they said, can I help you please? You say, no, I'm just looking. Instead you go, would you please give me a car loan? Please, because I need a car. We're begging them to buy from them. That's excellent, excellent marketing. And now we've reached the point that 25% of families now have a negative net worth. And I just pulled this up today. This is very interesting. Last year, the gross revenues for the credit card industry was over $150 billion as a whole. That is more than the gross national product of Egypt, Puerto Rico, and the Bahamas combined. This is a big deal. And these guys are very good at what they're doing. I'm not saying they're evil, and I'm not paranoid. I don't think there's a conspiracy. I just think they're a lot better at selling than we are at not buying. I think they're excellent at what they do. And I'm really kind of in awe of them in an evil, whacked out sort of way. So how do we break this? Well, I got to give you a whole new way of looking at things. And remember, what I want you to do is I want you to look at the screen and play my games with me. Look at this for a second. How many of you see the white candlestick or the vase in the middle? This is not a trick. Raise your hand. If you'll look, it's there. Keep looking until everyone sees it. I'll wait till you get your hands up. Keep looking. It's there. Do you see it? Does everybody see it? Get your hand up when you see it. Good. Thank you. How many of you see two faces looking at each other? Good. How many of you see two people getting ready to kiss? Sex fiends. Okay, now. It's your way of looking at things. What can I say? Here's another one. Look at this one. I am nowhere. I am now here. Your eyes saw one immediately. You're either lost or you have arrived. I don't know which it is, and we're not getting into the psychological mumbo jumbo of that garbage, right? But the bottom line is your eyes saw one quickly, didn't they? And then when we showed you the other one, you went, oh, there it is. Now you could see that little thing 15 years from now, and your eyes will immediately see one, and your brain will say, there's another one. Wait a minute, let me look for the file. And then it comes forward and drops into the RAM, the short-term memory, and you'll go, oh, there's the other one. I remember now. I am nowhere. I am now here.